Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Entry Point.
That isn't on here anywhere.
It was always a dream of mine.
And everyone has dreams and wishes. Some are huge and some are tiny. For Alex, in that picture, this is certainly what I would call a huge dream for him, and it's his passion. For me, it would be a nightmare, thinking of crawling up that El Capitan straight with nothing catching you. Especially when, we all dream, especially when you're small and just beginning life's journey. When I was in my preteen years, I dreamed of my father walking me down the aisle in a beautiful dress. I even had picked out the colors of aqua and shades of purple for the event. I was going to have 2 perfect children. That turned out to be a fantasy that did not come true.
And like that was a fantasy that didn't come true. I fantasize a lot myself. I'm very good at it because I was an only child. I was shy and introverted, bookwormish, and I spent a lot of time inside my own head. Sometimes I spent too much time dreaming, so says Carole, when she sees me trying to come up with a solution to some problem. I just sit and stare at it, the wheels of my brain spinning, and then, well, that's Carole's description. I come up with a solution to bring that dream to reality, or see the solution for the dream's problematic side. Quite often my dream or solution is what Carole refers to as some Rube Goldberg thing. In other words, overthought, unnecessarily complicated, and more often than not, abysmal failure, even though I use bungee cords to try as part of the solution.
Now, I want you to know, in our garage, we have bungee cords in every size, every color, on a long tool rack that they hang up. It's all the tool racks just for bungee cords, and that's it. That's the kind of thing. She goes down there and you can see just pondering which one will work with this.
I dream. But I think that whether I come up with an answer or not, or if it's flawed or convoluted or realized or pending, the dream still exists. Let me give you an example. As a child, I dreamed of being a lightning-fast, agile runner like my playmate Sally Klein. I was in awe of Sally. She was a graceful rocket running the bases in the neighborhood softball game. When she glided around the diamond, lightly tapping each base and fairly flew home to the home plate, I was usually tripping over my discarded bat on my way to first base, and my arms would be flailing for balance and lurching to remain upright, and I'd routinely get thrown out. And if the bat didn't get me, my huge feet did. And they would betray me, and I'd get caught under the bag of a base as I was trying to round it, and I'd get thrown out again. So my dream had to morph. It had to match what was possible and closer to reality. I was never going to be a graceful, fast athlete. I was tall, I was strong, and I was motivated. And these positive attributes helped me become a skilled horse trainer. I made the horse the athlete I would never be. I spent hours working with a variety of horses and other people's horses as well as my own. But the most special horse I worked with was my own, and his name was Mac Frost. He was an Appaloosa. Mac was fast, agile, handsome, smart. He was calm. He was a gentle pleasure horse. Anybody could ride him and not be scared. And he was very, very focused on contests. He excelled in those contests that required him to run about 30 yards and execute a series of skidding stops, twirls both left and right, and finally move backwards in a straight line about 25 feet like a wide receiver or somebody who is a defensive player in football. Doug could tell you about them. By living my athletic dream with Mac, I achieved that dream. I became the Indiana High Point junior showman of my horse, and he was the high point horse in the state. We lived the dream. Now, in the movie we're going to look at today, so that you have a little background, it's from Field of Dreams, and an Iowa corn farmer and baseball lover, Ray, is walking through his cornfield one day and he hears voices telling him, if you build it, they will come. So he plows up his corn crop, creates a baseball diamond, builds bleachers, and sure enough, a number of dead baseball players show up and play on the field. Only Ray can see and hear them. People think he's really lost it. It's a fantasy, a dream. Ray really tries to understand his dream. He seeks out a sports writer, James Earl Jones, and he explains a bit to Ray about life and baseballs as metaphors.
As John Lennon says, life is what happens to you when you're making other plans. The 2 children I had planned to have turned out to be about 1,000 children I ended up having in elementary classrooms during my teaching career. But of course, I didn't get to take them home at night. Now, in some cases, that was a blessing. Twice I had an opportunity to get married and possibly have children, but that wasn't where my heart was. Then I met Susan, and it turned out that life had a different plan for me. As Robert Frost says in his poem, The Road Not Taken, I ended up taking the road less traveled. 42 years, let me read this. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. 42 years after Susan and I did meet, we did get to walk down, and I did get to walk down an aisle. The aisle I walked down was in the city-county building in downtown Indianapolis. It was not the church I had dreamed of, however. I did get to have something aqua. It was an older linen tunic that I had had for some time. And there's, I'll just have you look at the picture. That's the aisle in the city-county building, not real magnificent or anything. And the young couple ended up behind us in line because they came down because it was only a 3-day window of time for us to be able to get married, and they wanted to participate in that. So they came down to get their wedding their license, and they were getting married in a couple of weeks. And by the way, they sent us a picture after that. And I did get to have aqua in my wedding because I wore it, and so did the young lady who happened to turn out to be a bridesmaid. Before that time, Susan and I had stayed, I'm sorry, I forgot the rest of it. This is where we're taking the vows in a real small room, not the church I had envisioned again. And then this is where we got to pay for it, as we had lined up. And then on the next one, we went with our friends Linda and Irene, who we stood up for them and they stood up for us. And they used to be members at Entry Point until they moved to Florida. And so we all went to lunch afterwards, and the restaurant then, in our honor of the marriage, ended up giving us a glass of champagne. Not our dinner, but our glass of champagne. Thank you. Before that time, Susan and I stayed together out of pure determination. We had no legal paper or children that would have urged us to stay together. There were no vows, but we did have common ideals and values that made us dream along the same track. Some dreams were small, like what kind of a lawnmower to buy, because we both like to mow the lawn. And some were big, like buying a house and then a condo with the same realistic expectations. Both of us are rather cheap, and that was the drive that has been a common motivator.
In part 2 of the video, before I read this, I want to ask you though, how many of you couples have stayed together because being cheap has been Jerry and Linda are it.
While
being being thrifty is a basis of our well-being and our relationship. Ray's and the sports writer, James Earl Jones, had earlier picked up a hitchhiker who happens to be named Archie Moonlight Graham. Now, he is a deceased ball player. Once again, nobody's conceding with them. But he only got to play one out in one inning as a youth, and he never knew how good he could really be before he had to quit. He went on to become a doctor. He's played by Burt Lancaster. Well, at the farm, Archie plays baseball with all the other ghosts, living his dream. But then, some people are more than able to think on their feet and respond with clever, smart, insightful, clear solutions to problems or win debates, arguments, slick as you please. I was never one of those fast-thinking folks. I've often said that if I were a trial attorney representing a client who had broken the law, he or she would never be found not guilty because I'd be a horrible lawyer. While I have a great extensive vocabulary and I've read a lot in my life, I can't think fast enough, organize my thoughts, and then verbalize an argument or position to save my soul, or in a court case, save my client. Indiana's prisons would be filled with convicts that I had represented, mumbling or standing with my mouth agape and soundless like a beached carp, struggling to breathe.
Susan is wonderful at writing letters of complaints or praises because she has the time to ponder everything she's going to say. But let us walk into a car dealership and have a difficult conversation with a person face to face. She kind of pushes me to the front, and then she walks in behind me. She looks like she has her eyes are like a deer in the headlights. It's always been this way, and we each have our own roles in this relationship.
And so our dream has evolved as it's gone on. I found she's a fast thinking mouthpiece while I'm
She says that a lot. Like when in the last thing, she was not supposed to read the last part about in front of the film. This is just an aside. However, because she was pontificating with her story, she just went right ahead and just went on because she loves to talk, if it's written down. If it's not, then I go first.
Thank you, dear. However, I am passably good at writing and creating because I have the time to ponder, rewrite, reorganize, and create and have fun. Once my fun thoughts have time to organize and start flowing, I manage to write things rather funny or at least mildly amusing, or so I tell myself. A number of people laugh and tell me they enjoy my viewpoints on or descriptions of various situations and experiences. Carole's still working on finding my humor funny, so that's a dream I'm still working on. But I took that failed dream as an orator and decided if I could make entertaining, funny stories or observations that brought one person to smile, laugh, shake his head, or giggle, then I'd live that dream. Creatively using language and my constantly churning imagination for amusement and laughs. Imagination.
It would be wonderful, but not all of life can be filled with dreams. Again, life gets in the way of our plans. Circumstances replace being able to dream. One time, Susan and I had 4 of our parents in Methodist Hospital, all at different times during a 1-year period. This actually was a nightmare, but we got through it because we did it together. It's only looking back on that makes me thankful that we handled that side by side. When you can handle the dreams and nightmares of life with someone, it makes the dreams even more enjoyable and the nightmares more bearable.
And just like good dreams are to be lived, pursued, and shared, so much nightmares. Ask Carolyn Hodgman. Having someone to share your nightmare with makes the darkness diminish and more manageable, like her grandson, Devin, being here last week.
One dream of mine that did come true was to get to retire early and sleep in past 5:30 a.m. and possibly go out to lunch on a weekday. I'm not an early morning person, which is a huge understatement, but when I did retire, I did get to do both. I can now sleep in and then go to the Entry Point Book Club on a Wednesday afternoon for lunch. That is how my retirement would flow like the river outside my back porch.
Well, next Sunday, you will be listening to Nancy, our pastor, speaking about your vibe attracts your tribe.
I hope everyone has their field of dreams, whether they're big or little. It's never too late to start dreaming, start planning now. I would also like to thank everybody that makes Entry Point what it is. Thanks to all of you guys that do a wonderful job, and they're sitting down, but they do this every week. And Bailey and Sean and everybody else, Bob's back with the kids, all of the hospitality people. We could not make this dream of Entry Point come true without all of you. We really appreciate it. Everybody have a great Sunday and go in peace.